Daisy's Resource Center. When a few years ago I served as a state representative, I represented this area and had an opportunity to work with Dr. Waddell and Dr. Daisy Brooks. And I saw the outstanding successes and the compassion that both of these individuals showed to their community, and especially to the girls at Daisy's Resource Center. And I remember the graduation ceremony where the women who struggled, who achieved, came together because of these very two fine individuals and because of their caring and commitment. I also remember just a few years ago a devastating fire, and in the early morning coming here and seeing members of the community help in to help rebuild Daisy's Resource Center. And by helping rebuild the center, they were also helping build the dreams of all the young women who come here. So I am thrilled to be back here today and to be joined by our co-founders and our special guests, and to really show what compassionate conservatism is all about, what faith is all about in rebuilding our communities. And at this point, I would like to introduce Pastor Gerald Wilcoxon of Mount Sinai Institutional Baptist Church for the invocation.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, we thank you in the name of Jesus for all of your blessings. We thank you for life and for the blessings of life. And we thank you, dear God, for this gathering of dignitaries and the people coming together as one. We thank you for the opportunity to gather here to recognize one who is doing a tremendous work in this community. We ask, dear God, that you continue to bless her and shower her with gifts, and continue to have mercy and grace upon her, that she might continue this great effort to change our community, to do better in our community, and to take the challenge to bind these young people together and give them the tools they need as we face this new millennium. Bless us in our efforts to gather together as one body with one mind with one purpose, and that is to do better in our community. In Jesus' name we pray and we say, amen.
Thank you, Reverend. And at this time, I would like to introduce someone to you who needs no introduction, Dr. Waddell Brooks, who's the past president of the NAACP, former president of the North Chicago Chamber of Commerce, and co-founder of Daisy's Resource Center. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Waddell Brooks.
Thank you very much, Governor Wood, for giving me this opportunity to recognize leaders in our community. We have that responded so well when I called them upon short notice to be with us to share this special event. When I call your name, would you stand or either just raise your hand so that you can be recognized by everyone. Gregory McDean Williams, the owner and general manager of the Business Coach in Waukegan. Amos Monk, Commissioner of Zion, Illinois. Crystal D. Ayers, a manager of the Greenbelt Cultural Center. We have Richard Millen, owner of the Carr Millen Insurance Company and also a past president of the North Chicago Rotary Club. Dick Millen. Okay. Mary Lockhart White, executive director of the Lake County Community Action Project. Richard Johnson, plant manager of Gillette Company. John Hines, a former North Chicago chairman of the Housing Authority, North Chicago Housing Authority. Terry Waddell, mentor, Britain Design. No relation to Waddell Brooks. Nathaniel Hamilton, Navy retired, Lake County multicultural displayer. David Magnuson, Lake Bluff, Lake Forest, Kiwanis Club. Daniel Casing, business manager of School District 187, North Chicago. Ovid Wong, assistant superintendent, District 187, North Chicago. Jerry Dillow, director of public aid of Lake County. Ed Poland, President, the North Chicago Industrial Council, also President and CEO of IMCO Chemical Distributors. Todd Miles, Illinois African-American, Bush for President. Crystal Bush, attorney, political volunteer. Thank you very much. If there are other dignitaries that I haven't mentioned, would you stand probably and give your name? I see the Reverend Professor James Dorsey from the College of Lake County. Any others? I think you want to introduce him? Okay, Michael Waller, the Lake County State's Attorney. We also have Attorney Willard Helander, County Clerk. You know, Cecil Price, candidate for State Representative, 5th and 9th District. Okay, I had more introductions than I thought, but okay, that's it. Okay, Ed Poland.
I just wanted to say a couple of words about the North Chicago Industrial Council. We founded the council 3 years ago, and it's comprised of some of the businessmen in the community who run businesses in North Chicago, and we decided to put the group together to try to do some things for the city of North Chicago. And I just wanted to let you all know that we've been organized for 3 years. In our first year, we organized sometime in June or July of '98, and we donated some money to the city to give Christmas baskets to those families who weren't going to have such a nice Christmas, and we were able to donate some funds for that purpose. In 1999, we donated some money to Daisy here for her school here. We gave some money to the Catholic Charities. We funded some money to the school district for buses so that the children can go on field trips. And in addition to that, some in future years they can plant trees and help beautify the city. And this year, for the year 2000, we've donated 2 sets of 2 swing sets, a 6-swing unit and one each for 2 of the parks right up here on Glen Drive that will be installed in the fall. So I just wanted all of you to know that the North Chicago Industrial Council has been very active in the community, and we'll do the best we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pullen. And as you all can see, with a number of community leaders, volunteers, elected officials, the business community, they've all joined together and helped support the community and helped support Daisy's Resource Center. And that's part of the reason why Daisy's is such a success. But I'll have to tell you there's another reason why it's a success. You've already heard from Dr. Waddell Brooks, who is the co-founder of Daisy's Resource Center. But as we often say, behind every great man, there is a greater woman.
Amen.
And so it gives me pleasure to introduce to you the founder and president of Daisy's Resource Center, Dr. Daisy Brooks.
Thank you, Corinne. Again, I would just like to say that we are very pleased to host this event this afternoon for Calissa Rice. my mind just went on me. I would just like to give you a brief synopsis of my program here. Most of you have taken a tour of the program. Daisy's Resource Center is a licensed facility that houses girls who have come from dysfunctional families and have been placed here by the Department of Children and Family Services. And what happens when the girls are taken from their home, they're put in a shelter and they look for places such as this to come so we can provide them with the services that they need to either return home or to become independent or self-sufficient. The programs that we have included here is that we have our own school on site. We have vocational programs such as School of Cosmetology, CNA nursing, computer school, GED school, and child care. I have 3 students here that is in my program, and I wanted them to just come and just take a couple minutes to let you know what the program have meant to them. But before they come, I want you to meet a dear friend of mine that we just met. She read about the article in the Oprah magazine, and she flew up here today to be with us. She is affiliated with the St. Louis Rams, and they're going to be doing some fundraising for us. And I just want you to meet Connie Bishop from St. Louis, Missouri. Connie, stand up. The 3 girls that I'm going to bring to you, we have one that is in our program that is here now. We have one that has been here a couple of years. She's leaving on Friday. And we have one girl who have completed our program and is out on her own. So girls, if you would just come and give a minute of how you feel, or what you think the program has done for you. The first one is Cherie Spencer. Come on, Cherie.
Cherie Spencer. I would like to thank all administrators and all staff, but most of all, I would most definitely like to thank Ms. Brooks and her daughters. Without them, my statement today would not be possible. I feel deep down in my heart, as residents of Daisies, we owe them a lot. They helped me with a lot of things that I was just too scared to tell anyone. They gave me the opportunity to be a true person that I held back showing. They also gave me a new beginning of responsibility. What I mean about that is they molded me into being a young, intelligent woman, and a new mother of a beautiful daughter. When I first arrived at DRDC, I was scared, mad, and confused. I really didn't want to be here. I wanted to stay where I knew everybody. Miss Cassandra and Miss Brooks came to me and said, "We are here for you. Whatever you need, just call on us." I felt so relaxed and calm then. My second day here, I went into labor. I remembered what they had told me. I figured I'm in labor, so I need them right about now. Miss Cassandra came and showed me her most wonderful smile and told me not to worry, and I didn't. I hugged the baby when she went down to lunch. When she heard, I think she was kind of upset. She got over it, I hope. To make a long story short, everyone was here for me when I needed it. And I would just like to thank Dr. Brooks, Cassandra Brooks, and Yolanda Brooks. Thank you.
Our next young lady has been with us for a couple of years. She's leaving Friday to go into her independent living program. Regina Neal.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Regina, and I'm here today to tell you all what a wonderful program Dr. Brooks has. I say this is a wonderful program because it offers so much to the girls that are now residing here at Daisy's. When I first got here, there was a lot of things I had to learn. One of the things I had to learn was how to be a good parent to my children. They taught me that. Another thing I had to learn was how to get along with other residents living in the same house. Also, by residing here at Daisy's, I had to learn to be patient with others and to be patient with certain things in life. Because being patient is better than rushing everything in life. Because rushing only makes things worse or harder on oneself. Also, while residing here at Daisy, I accomplished a lot of things. Within 1 year, one of the biggest accomplishments was completing high school. This was a big accomplishment because after having children, I felt like giving up. But with the help of Dr. Brooks, Cassandra Brooks, and their wonderful teachers and staff pushing me out the door to school, and because they knew what was best for me, I made it. I also would like to thank Ms. Gina Shaw and Wanda Garrett, coordinators of the Supervised Independent Living Program. The reason why I am thanking them is because without their help and ongoing love, I don't think I would have made it this far. They love their job and their girls who are a part of their job. When it comes down to their girls, they love us all the same. There is never any difference in anything they have ever done for any of the girls residing in the Supervised Independent Living Program. When I leave Daisy's, I plan to use the skills in which I was taught to the best of my ability. to make it in the real world and to finish raising my children the best way possible. I am going to strive to get a decent job that will help take care of me and raise my children. Thank you.
And our last student who have finished our program, and she's now out on her own, Candace.
Okay, I didn't write anything because what I want to say is going to come from my heart. When I came to Daisy's, I was in jail and I had got on parole when I came here. And I know that Ms. Brooks and her staff were really skeptical about letting me into her program because of the things that I had went to jail for. And I know she was scared that, you know, I might run away or mess up and, you know, do a lot of things that I didn't have any business doing. But Ms. Brooks really gave me a chance, you know, at life. She really let me know that there's always someone there for you. And Ms. Brooks and her daughters have always been there for me. They've treated me like, you know, I'm someone special. They've let me know that no matter where you go, they'll always be there for me. I've been out on my own now for like 8 months now, and I always come back here all the time to talk to them and get their advice on things. Ms. Brooks and her daughters are like, they're people that you'll never forget once you meet them. And I noticed that Ms. Brooks has started letting people off the street come to her school, like kids from North Chicago High School that don't complete it. And I had a friend that was out on the street selling drugs and, you know, being bad and stuff. And since he's been coming to Ms. Brooks' program, he's really improved his life. And you know, this program doesn't only reach out to young women that are on the street coming from shelters. It also reaches out to kids that go to the public school, you know, and it lets them know that there's someone there for you and there are people there that are willing to help you. And you know, Ms. Brooks is just being like a second mother to me. My mom died when I was a child, and you know, she's just really been there for me and showed me that, you know, she's proud of me no matter what I do. I didn't really have to go through too many programs when I came here because I had my high school diploma and I don't have any kids. But, you know, I had a job, and she always told me that you can do it as long as you believe in yourself. And that's one thing Ms. Brooks tells everybody, and she believes it herself. She believes in everybody that comes to this program, and so do her daughters. And that's what I want to say.
Thank you to Cherie, Regina, and Candace for those very inspirational remarks. Let's give the gals another big round of applause. Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted, we have a juvenile prevention program here that is going very well. We have about 80 students enrolled in that program, and I wanted you to meet the coordinator for that program, Ms. Sadiqa Bailey. Yeah.
And there's a few other special community leaders in our audience that we want to acknowledge. Elroy Reed from the People's Voices here with us. You can just wave. And Patricia Elasias. I'm never going to get this right. Elasias from Jelly Belly. We all know Jelly Belly is also here. And Ben Grimes from the Lake County Economic Development Center is also here. Thank you very much for joining us here today. And at this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you someone who will be an elected official in just about a week from now. He's someone who spent a lot of time in the community, who has a vast experience, and who I know will follow in the proud, independent tradition of Congressman John Porter. And that's Mark Stephen Kirk, candidate for Congress.
Dr. Rice, I'm very proud to have you here because you're helping us put North Chicago back on the map. And for us, I feel a little outranked here with Dr. Brooks and Dr. Rice behind me. I didn't get that far in school. I also would say that in 1991, when I was called up for Desert Storm, Dr. Rice was working for President Bush in the National Security Council and held the informal rank of a 3-star admiral. And I had a 1 stripe on my shoulder. It is likely, I think, that Dr. Rice will be our next national security advisor in the White House to the President of the United States. And welcome. Now, Dr. Rice and everyone, we welcome you here because something very special is happening right here in North Chicago. There's been time when we've thought of North Chicago, Zion, and Waukegan as forgotten communities. And they're not forgotten communities. They're our home. And we're going to make a change here. I want to acknowledge Alderman Mike Baselli of North Chicago, who's here, Alderman Needham of Waukegan, who's here, and Scott Hill, our outreach coordinator, who's all here, where we're trying to make a real difference. We're going to get nuclear waste out of this community. We're going to revolutionize education impact aid, and we're going to make a difference right here. When Dr. Brooks and I toured this facility, I met the children of one young woman who was here. You guys probably know her. She's 18 years old with 4 kids, right here. And making a real difference in the lives of those children and that young woman is what's happening at this center. Dr. Brooks brought about a revolution. It's a quiet revolution, and it's elegant in its simplicity. Offer the health care, the child care, the housing, the security, and the education these young mothers need to succeed. And when you're trained as a nurse's assistant or a beautician here, Dr. Brooks gets them a job. And that makes all the difference. And for us, Dr. Brooks has had many helpers in the state of Illinois, and one in particular. The other night, I was at the Weitzman Institute dinner and was able to have my 45 seconds with Oprah Winfrey, who is one of the #1 benefactors of this center and has kept the doors open here. And I just simply said to her, Oprah, thank you. Thank you for what you've done for the Brooks Center. And you here in the media are helping us continue the message for us. I think we need more help here, and we need to expand this revolution. Part of that also is reaching out. My party, the Republican Party, has done a very bad job with minority communities the last generation. We're changing that. We're going to make a real difference. We're reaching out right here today, as we've done throughout this entire campaign, and we're going to bring that about with new development right here in North Chicago. My women's health advisor is the Lieutenant Governor, who has made this the centerpiece of her service. And we're going to make sure that that is reflected in the United States Congress, continuing in John Porter's tradition. Now, Dr. Rice, there's one other aspect to this community you should know about. We are one of the most heavily militarized communities in America. We're home to 30,000 people who work for the United States Navy here. And improving pay and benefits and taking care of our veterans is also a key priority right here in North Chicago. So with that, I'm just completely honored and thrilled to introduce the woman who was. I think there was one man from Texas who also starred at the convention, but you were the other star. The woman who I hope will be the next National Security Advisor to the President of the United States, Dr. Condoleezza Rice.
For that wonderful introduction, and I really just have to take a moment to honor the service that you did in Desert Storm and the service of all of America's men and women in uniform who continue to serve us. We have a volunteer army, and we sometimes forget that these are the children of America, these are the mothers and fathers of children, and we owe them a great deal. And so thank you very much for your service, and I'm sure you're going to do a terrific job in Congress as well. It is really a delight to be here, and I just have to tell you, I'm so inspired walking around and seeing what you're doing here, Dr. Brooks. It's just exciting, and very often when I stand up to give a talk, especially over the last several months where I've been asked to talk a lot about Governor Bush and his plans for America,
I'm usually asked to talk about his foreign policy plans for America because I am, after all, his foreign policy advisor. And I talk about the importance of securing our military and making sure that it's strong for the future. I talk about the importance of trade. I talk about the importance of getting relationships right with Russia and China. But I also always try to end those talks with what I'd like to begin with today, which is that who we are and what we do in the world as Americans is extremely important to lots of people who are emerging from tyranny, emerging from communism, trying to feel their way toward democracy and toward democratic development. And I can tell you, they look to the United States to see whether or not it can work. But if we are going to be a beacon to them, if we're going to be strong leaders in the world, it has to start with who we are as a people. And this center, Daisy's Resource Center, is the best of who we are as a people. You know, very often when we go out and we talk about American values, we talk about democratic values, we talk about freedom of speech, we talk about individual liberties, freedom of the press, we talk about elections, the right to choose those who would govern you, and those are all central freedoms of democracy and ones that we hold dear. But there's more, isn't it, to being a successful democracy than just what you do as an individual. It's what you do, first of all, as a community. We know that none of us, not one of us in this room, got to where we are without a helping hand from somebody else. Maybe it was a parent, maybe it was a minister, maybe it was a teacher, maybe it was Dr. Brooks or someone like her who cared enough in the community to say, this community is going to care about this child, about this young person. And so we are a country that, as much as we value our individual liberty and our individual freedom and our individual initiative and entrepreneurship, we also value what the community can do. Now, I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, and I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama when Jim Crow was still dominant. I was born in 1954. I'm 45, so you don't have to start adding. And in Birmingham, being black, there weren't any issues about being black. It was just being black that was an issue. Because Birmingham was a completely segregated society with poor schools for black children, where you couldn't go to a lunch counter, where you couldn't get on a bus and sit in the front. But you know what? The community of Birmingham was so dedicated to its children that for people like me, it really didn't matter. It was a community effort that made sure that kids in Birmingham were going to have opportunities. It was almost as if the community said, Bull Connor, the police commissioner of Birmingham, might be able to wreak violence against our people, but he's not going to get our kids. Oh, community is what matters in America. And this is an example of what a community can do. I was listening to Mr. Pullum talk about the business interest in the community. You know, private partnerships with institutions like this are transforming America across the entire country. Whether it is partnerships in education or partnerships with community-based institutions like this one, those private-public partnerships are extremely important to our future. And you know, Governor Bush understands that because he's been a governor in Texas where he has seen what community partnerships are doing at the grassroots level, where local people take control of their environment and say, we are going to make this place work. It's not just distant government in Washington, it's local people taking control of their lives and making sure that it works. You know, there's another part of who we are as Americans, and that is that we are a people that are grounded in faith. We really do believe that you can't make people love each other from Washington. You can't make people care about each other from Washington. You can't make people be compassionate toward each other from Washington. That has to be done here, neighbor to neighbor, community to community. And very often, the role of faith-based institutions in making it possible for people to love each other and be compassionate to each other is much the answer for what ails us as a society. I know that there are ministers here who have faith-based programs that are doing a marvelous job from the heart in helping those who need a helping hand. And again, Governor Bush has said that the role of faith-based institutions in solving our country's problems has been long underestimated, and it shouldn't be underestimated. It can't come from government, but government can be supportive of faith-based institutions in doing what they need to do to help solve the ills of the society. And again, my own experience here is affirming for me in this. You know, my dad is a minister. He's a Presbyterian minister, and my grandfather was a Presbyterian minister, and indeed my uncle was a Presbyterian minister too. Somebody said the Rices and Rays only teach and preach. That's all they do. But it was in my dad's church that I learned to speak French, because there were after-school programs there, and there were child care programs there, and there were youth programs there. And I know that faith-based institutions continue to have a role to play in doing something about society's toughest problems. And so I just want to congratulate those of you who are involved in community and faith-based institutions, and to say you're really doing the lead work of solving America's problems. Finally, this is a place that demonstrates what's best about America, because it's a place that never gives up on anybody. It's a place that believes in people. You know, I heard one of the young women say, this Daisy Resource Center taught me to believe in myself, but Dr. Brooks always believed in me. And that's the connection, isn't it? You can't really believe in yourself unless there's somebody who believes in you. And so many kids out there today, no one who really believes in them. And all they have to do is get to a place where they can find that adult who really says, you can do it. And you know, it speaks volumes about our country, that it really is at the core of our values, that it shouldn't matter where you came from, it should matter where you're going. It should matter that if you can work hard and get an education, you can climb in this country to do whatever it is you want to do. But you need someone who will give you a chance. And when I met Governor Bush, it was because I thought he'd make a great foreign policy president that I've been involved with him in foreign policy. But it's also because I've seen and talked to him and feel his passion for education. There is nothing more important in our country, no more important national security priority in our country than the education of our children. And let's be very clear, right now, the schools are failing too many of our kids, failing too many of the poorest of our kids. They're being warehoused, not taught. They're being sent through, not progressed. People are not believing in them. There is a kind of bigotry of low expectations, particularly for minority kids. And if we allow the status quo to continue, in public education in particular, then we are to blame for the fact that an entire generation of children are being condemned to poverty and failure in America. We cannot, and I will say this particularly for African Americans, we cannot, as a people who struggled in slavery to get the chance to read, who many a slave was lynched for trying to learn to read, we cannot as a people tolerate a situation in which African American youngsters cannot read. That is completely to turn our backs on our legacy. It cannot be permitted. So the education of our children is key. And again, Governor Bush has made education his #1 priority in Texas. He has said it will be his #1 priority as President of the United States. He said no child can be left behind and no person can be left behind. So that's why I'm so delighted to be here, because when I look out there as a foreign policy specialist in what America can do for the world, I know that unless we can do these things for our people, for people who want to access the American dream, but for whatever reason, it's just not there for them, that we're actually not going to be a very influential power in the world. We're not going to be a confident power in the world, because it is really because of our moral values, our commitment to leaving no one behind, our commitment to faith, and our commitment to community that we've gotten as far as we can. I'm so delighted to be here at Daisy's Resource Center. I'm so glad to meet the volunteers and the funders and the staff here that make it all work. And I'm just honored to share a stage with you, Dr. Brooks and Dr. Brooks, because I know that without your vision and without your dream and without your belief in people, that this could never have happened. Thank you very, very much. I hope that you'll all get out also and vote on November 7th. You know, one of my hobby horses, having been out there and seen people who are struggling to get the right to vote, as what's wrong with us as Americans, that we don't use this very precious right. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being with you, and go Rams.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rice, for the inspiring message and for the service that you've given to our country and to the schools. And we're looking forward to seeing you in Washington, D.C. in the very near future, helping us spread our compassionate conservatism and helping celebrate the wonderful communities that make it possible for Daisy's Resource Center to be and to succeed. And Dr. Brooks wanted me to ask Sadiqa if she wanted to come up and just say a few words about what it means to be here and the work that you do with these wonderful young women.
I just really wanted to say thank you, because it feels really good that now youth are really starting to play a key factor in our progress in the States. What I do is I'm the Director of Youth Services and Prevention for the City of North Chicago, which is subcontracted here. And I also wanted to give some acknowledgement to our city, because for the past 3 years, they have really committed themselves to working with the youth in North Chicago. And Dr. Brooks, her services here, as you have seen earlier, are so good and great that they have been expanded into the community. We service kids between the ages of 12 and 24. And this past year, we opened an after-school program. It started in February. And you should also know, as the Lieutenant Governor, that it was started with Title V funds, which come from the feds to the state, to the city, to Daisy's. And our program, so all of you are affected, but our program was a pilot program, and we studied cooperative learning centers in the world, from South Africa to Oakland, and our program is based on evidence. It's a research-based program, and it is the best in the state. Even compared to Boys and Girls Clubs and so forth, right here in North Chicago, our program, our after-school program, we have 91 kids registered, and about 80 attend every day. And this is the best in the state. What makes us so good is our model, and our model is very simple. We are going to create world leaders through learning, teaching, and producing. We don't want to just do abstract work. And we really hope that this is folded in to the government that we're going to create here in the States. We want our kids to be world leaders. I have to acknowledge them because they are the source to a lot of joy for me and our city, and they're going to do it through self-sufficiency. If the kids, we love grants, but we want the kids to learn entrepreneurship, a good work ethic, and to create and be a producer, not just a consumer. And that is one of the things that stands out about our program, is that the kids create their own money. And we start them at 10 years old. So by the time they step up, if they take music at 10, by the time they're a sophomore, they could probably teach it to other 10-year-olds. By the time they're a senior, they might have had enough years of service with our program to have generated funds for their college tuition so that they can also pay for their own entrance into college. So we love this program, and we are so appreciative of Dr. Brooks because I went everywhere. I went to the city, I went to the police department, the park district, the library. The only person who said yes to this program was Dr. Brooks, and 3 years later, we're the best in the state. Thank you.
Well, you can see we truly have a treasure with Sadiqa. Her enthusiasm, her education, and her love for the children. Thank you for everything you do here at Daisy's. And thank you for spending some of your time out of your busy schedules with us here today. We have some refreshments in the back, and Dr. Rice will be able to stay for a few minutes and meet and talk with you. So again, thank you. Thank you, Drs. Brooks. Thank you so much for what you do, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Senator Burris, and hello, everybody. Welcome to the White House. I want to start by recognizing the very proud members of Congress who are joining us to help celebrate a few of their outstanding constituents. So thank you all for coming. We are here to recognize, and this is one of my favorite events that I do every year. We're here to recognize winners of the Citizens Medal. This is one of the highest honors a president can bestow. For 40 years, this medal has been given to men and women who have performed exemplary deeds of service for their country or their fellow citizens. And their lives stand as shining examples of what it means to be an American. Today, we've got an opportunity to tell their stories, to say thank you, and to offer them a small token of our appreciation. Now, at first glance, the honorees behind me don't seem to have too much in common, although I did point out that the guys are outnumbered. Which tells you something about who really gets stuff done in the neighborhoods. But they are mothers and fathers, nurses and bus drivers, veterans and immigrants. They come from different backgrounds and they hail from every corner of our country. But what unites these citizens, what makes them special, is the determination they share to right a wrong, to see a need, and then meet it, to recognize when others are suffering and take it upon themselves to make a difference. When they saw a veteran in need of proper care, or a teenage mom who could use a helping hand, they didn't just shake their heads and keep on walking. They didn't write it off as another example of life not being fair. Instead, they saw it as a problem to solve, a challenge to meet, a call to action that they could not ignore. So, just to give a few examples here. When Jorge Munoz saw homeless men gathered on a street corner with nothing to eat, he could have rolled up his window and driven away. Instead, he came home from his job as a school bus driver and started cooking hot meals for anyone who was hungry. These days, the Angel of Queens feeds over 100 people every night, rain or shine. And Jorge says, you have to see their smile, that's what I get paid. Or Susan Reddick's husband was killed when his plane was flown into the World Trade Center on September 11th. And nobody would have blamed Susan if she had turned inward with grief or with anger, but that isn't who she is. So instead, she and another widow started Beyond the 11th, and this is a group that empowers Afghan widows affected by war and terrorism. And Susan says, these women are not our enemy. So for Jorge and Susan and the rest of today's honorees, the words, not my problem, don't exist. Instead, they ask themselves, if I don't help this person, who will? They recognize that no matter how difficult their lives may be, no matter how daunting their own challenges may seem, someone else will always have it harder than they do. There will always be a more important cause to fight for. For these men and women, serving others isn't just the right thing to do, it's the obvious thing to do. They may not be rich or powerful in the traditional sense, but they believe that those of us with a roof over our heads, with loved ones to go home to, with food in our stomachs and strength in our limbs, have been blessed. And in return, it's our duty to use those gifts to reach out to those who aren't so lucky. And this humility and this selflessness has always been a part of the American story. From the patriots who have worn our nation's uniform to everyday Americans who have marched and fought and raised their voices to help perfect our union, it's no coincidence that our founding document begins with the words, "We the people." Ours is a nation founded on the power and freedom of individuals, but also on the belief that I am my brother's keeper and I am my sister's keeper. And that only if we look out for one another can we all move forward together. As Lisa Nigro, another one of today's honorees, said, once you find a common bond in your humanity, you start to see the less fortunate as people, not them or those people. They are you and me. And that was the idea behind the Edward M. Kennedy Serve America Act, the landmark piece of legislation that I signed into law last year. And together with the work of the Corporation of National and Community Service, as well as the Office of Social Innovation, it's giving more Americans the opportunity to serve others and help address our greatest challenges. And I want to thank Patrick Corvington and Melody Barnes for their leadership. Because we know that real change does not come from Washington. It comes from the grassroots, from men and women in communities all across the country working together to make a difference. In the end, that's what service is all about. It's not about the recognition or the awards, and it's obviously not about the money. To quote George Weiss, who's being honored here today, we don't do it for the notoriety. We do it because we felt it has to be done. And that's why it is my hope that if this award serves a purpose, it will be to inspire more Americans to open their hearts, to strengthen their communities, and to follow the example of these amazing men and women who are here today. So congratulations to all of the winners of the Citizens Medal. So, I've got some military aides here, and one of them is going to read the citations, and I'm going to get the medals to present to each of our honorees. With that, let's get started.
The Presidential Citizens Medal recipients: Roberta Diaz Brinton. For 2 decades, Roberta Diaz Brinton has devoted her time and efforts to improving science education for students in East Los Angeles. As director of the University of Southern California's Science, Technology, and Research program, she has opened doors for thousands of disadvantaged and minority inner-city students through one-on-one mentoring, hands-on learning opportunities, and college scholarships. The United States honors Roberta Diaz Brinton for encouraging America's next generations to reach for the stars. Daisy M. Brooks. When a pregnant teenager with no place to stay arrived at her door, Daisy M. Brooks welcomed the young woman and provided her with the care and support she needed. What followed was a lifelong commitment to helping many of northern Chicago's young mothers and their infants. She opened Daisy's Resource and Developmental Center to serve as a dormitory, school, and place for young women to improve their lives. For offering priceless guidance and support to young women in need, the United States honors Daisy M. Brooks.
You see why this is one of my favorite ceremonies? I want to thank all of you for joining us to honor these remarkable people. None of them asked for this award. They didn't apply for it. Instead, they were nominated by the men and women all across the country whose lives they have touched. And even though their names may not be well known, at least not until today, they are heroes to those who need it the most. And together they remind us that we all have a purpose on this earth that goes beyond our own lives and our own individual needs. And they teach us that no matter what challenges we face, we each have the power to make the world a better place. So congratulations to all of you. We are better as a country as a consequence of your extraordinary service, and you exemplify what it means to be a citizen of the United States of America. We're grateful. Thank you all for coming.